makeup friends. Today we're going to be taking a look at Opal, the newest Birthstone palette from BH Cosmetics. Let's get into this. As always, I want to start off by welcoming you back to my channel, or if you're new here, then hello and welcome. My name is Kara, and on my channel, we like to mix beauty, brains, and the occasional F-bomb. Now, like I said at the beginning, this video is all about Opal, which is the newest Birthstone palette from BH. So if you're not aware, every month BH has been releasing a new palette inspired by that month's particular birthstone. For October, that is Opal. So all year I've been wondering, what are they going to do for Opal? How are they going to interpret that? Now you have to keep in mind though, these palettes are only $9. So you're getting 7 shadows for $9. I really didn't expect that we were going to see, top tier multi-chromes at that price point, but I was curious if they were going to include additional glitter shadows into it or really rely heavily on duochrome shadows. I wasn't quite sure how they were going to interpret Opal, but I can answer that for you because here it is. So they've gone for a much more pastel kind of palette this time. There is a duochrome shade in here, which is the shade called Opal, and they have restrained themselves to just the one pressed glitter that shows up in all of these palettes. But I will say that this pressed glitter is beautiful. It is filled with multicolored little flecks of glitter and it catches the light so nicely. My mirror is down on the table in front of me, and even from this distance, I can see all of those individual little colors in there, and I think it's a beautiful pressed glitter. Pressed glitters aren't typically my favorite finish of shadow, but if you're gonna have one, make it a good one, and this one is. Not only does it apply nicely even without a glitter glue, but this one is really, really pretty. It stands nicely on its own, but I think it would also play really nicely on top of any of these matte shadows as well. So, taking a look at the matte shadows, you've got 3 in here. So there's this sort of burnt light orange kind of shade over here, a pinky purple down here, and then this sky blue over here. For the shimmer shadows, you've got an almost burgundy, but it applies more lightly than what it looks in the pan, and then this beautiful mint green over here. So filming this intro, obviously I have the benefit of having actually applied these shadows, so I do know how they perform. Don't necessarily want to give it away because I am going to talk about it as I apply the shadows, and we'll see that in just a moment. But suffice it to say that this palette stands up to the same standard of all the other Birthstone palettes so far this year. The mattes are the same quality as you find in their travel series or in their Sweet Shop series, as well as those shimmer shadows. I had no issues picking up any of these shadows with a brush or laying them down, and they blend really nicely as well. So from a quality perspective, I am completely on board with this palette. From a color story perspective, however, this is not something that I would typically gravitate towards. And if I hadn't already done 9 of these reviews, and I'm pretty dedicated to doing all 12 this year, this is a palette that I would have given a pass to. However, having said that, I did manage to pull something together, although there was a lot of hemming and hawing, I'll be perfectly honest about that. But if you do like pastel shades, for $9, you really can't go wrong with this. And even as a complement to other palettes, I think that this would hold a place in somebody's collection for that. Now, the final bit of information that I'm going to give you before we move on to swatches is that, like I said, this is $9. It is vegan and cruelty-free, but it is currently sold out on the BH website, and they are exclusive to the website, so you're not going to find these at Ulta or at Beauty Bay. So they will restock eventually. If Sapphire is any indication, that one sold out last month, and then they did restock before the end of the month. So if you are interested in this palette, definitely keep an eye on not only my community tab, because I will post there if I see that it has been restocked, but also the BH website itself. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get into the swatches. All right, so I haven't primed my arm. We're just gonna go in straight out of the pan here. So this one is the shade Opal, followed by Positive, Personable, and Faithful. Then we have Big Heart, Emotional, and then lastly is the shade Daydreamer. And now that we've seen the swatches, let's move right in to the eye application. All right, I'm just gonna come straight out and say that I am flummoxed. I don't really know what to do with this. I do not gravitate towards pastels. I like the look of them on other people, don't like how they look on me, and this palette is very, very light, and I don't think this one's even gonna show up all that deeply, to be honest. So I don't know what to do with it. So to make life a little bit easier and just to buy some time, I'm actually gonna go in and use the big shade here, Opal, as my highlighter today. So I'm going to apply that with this brush here from Smashbox. This is the Precise Highlighting Brush. So I'm just gonna pick up a healthy amount of that powder there. And then let's see how she does. So this is like a pink duochrome kind of shadow, which I typically don't really like all that much as highlighters on me just because it doesn't really mesh with my skin tone. But from dead on in the mirror, you can't really see it. It's only when I turn my head that it catches the light and I can see that pink reflect there. But I'm glad that it doesn't have like a really strong pink like undertone or cast to it, so that it's not like this strip of pink just floating around on my cheekbones. I think it actually looks pretty in that way and very reflective. So I mean, it is a very pretty shade, and certainly all over the lid you could use that as well, but it's nice to know that there's options to use it as a highlighter too. Put some here, put some here, and then and what's nice about this shade as well, especially if you want to use it as a highlighter, is that there's no glitter in it. So it just catches the light nicely and just bounces it back without being chunky or heavy on the skin. And it just kind of blends seamlessly in. So while I typically am not a big fan of pink highlighters on me, it's actually not bad. Again, because it doesn't have that strong pink like cast to it. So I think it's wearable. It's doable for me, so I'm happy about that. Okay, that bought me a tiny bit of time. And now I'm back staring at the palette trying to figure out what I'm gonna do with it. So, you know what? At the end of the day, it's just makeup. It's just makeup, it washes off. If it looks ridiculous, it looks ridiculous. It's totally fine. I'm not gonna die from that. We're gonna be okay. So, I just want to play with the powders and not get too mired down in how it actually ends up looking. So I'm going to go in with this brush here. This is the 201 from BK Beauty, and I'm going to pick up that warm light brown shade over here. It's called Faithful, and I'm just going to start by applying that as like a transition kind of shade. I have already primed my eyes, FYI. I used the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip Eye Primer. It's growing on me, but I like the Gerard Cosmetics one better because it cancels out the discoloration of my lid and the Milk Makeup one doesn't. So while I like it as a base in terms of how it makes the shadows apply on top of it, I would love it if they would come out with a tinted version as well. I think I called this a light warm brown, but it's got like a strong peachy kind of tone to it as well. It's like a slightly, I don't know, earthier version of like peach smoothie from Makeup Geek. Okay, let's just try to establish a little bit of a gradient across the lid. I'm going to use this shade on the outer portion, this one towards the middle, and this on the inner area of my lid. I'll run that along my lower lash line, that on the inner corner, and we're just gonna hope for the best. So that's the plan. Let's execute it. So I'm gonna start off with the shade Positive. So this is pinky lilac-y kind of shade. I'm just gonna put that on the outer third, I guess, of my lid. I mean, she's pigmented, that's for sure, for being such a light color. gonna use the same brush. This is the Refer 01 brush. I'm gonna flip it over to the unused side and pick up that light blue shade called Emotional and place that. Oh, I wasn't expecting you to be so aggressive. All right then, BH, I see, holy shit, wow. Okay, I wasn't expecting that. So I think we're gonna have to spend some time doing some blending, which is fine. I would rather it be a little more assertive than I expected than just be a powdery mess that blends off into nothing, which is frankly a common occurrence with like powdery blues like this, like sky blues. I find a lot of time you just spend so much time building them up because they just fade into nothing. But this, not the case. Not the case at all. So I'm just gonna keep going back and building up those two shades, blending them where they meet. All right, well that was a pleasant surprise. I really didn't expect that that blue was going to be nearly as pigmented as it is, but I'm very happy with how it performs. So now let's go in with this shimmery mint shade here called Personable, and I'm picking that up on a Bristles Beauty P06RF brush. I'm going to leave it dry and just see how it looks applied that way, and then I can always apply more with some setting spray if I think it's going to be necessary. I think it's holding its own on its own. But you know what, for the lulz, let's give her a little spritz and apply it to the other side and see if there's any real difference. Definitely more intense, but the color itself shows through the same, so it just depends on what kind of finish you want. But now that I have it that intense on that side, I just got to even it out on the other. There. And I'm just going to go back with a tiny bit of that blue and just meld those two together. Okay. I don't know, there's something about pastels on me that I just think looks weird. I don't know what it is, but we're committed to it, we're doing it, it's okay. All right, so for lower lash line, I'm gonna go in with this shade called Big Heart. It's the deepest in the palette. It is shimmery, so hopefully it doesn't look out of place along the lower lash line, but we will find out soon. I think I would have preferred this one to be a matte, just because it is such a light palette, so having a deeper option just to like create some dimension and add some depth to things, I think would have been preferable for me at any rate. But no but. There's no but. I wish it was a matte. We'll leave it at that. I'm just going to blend it out really well to hopefully wear off some of that satiny finish. But I will say something is getting into my eyes and kind of irritating them. I think it's little particles from this shade, Big Heart, because I didn't have any issues with the shades on the upper lid, but down here, it's not painful, it's just a little irritating. Like there's little tiny specks of something falling into my eyes. Not a fan of that. I was going to blend it out with that pinky purple shade that we used on the outer portion, but I think it's gonna be too pink under the eyes. I think it's just gonna look weird. So I'm just gonna take a clean brush and just buff this out along the edges even more, just to really blow it out under the eyes. I'm not feeling that eye irritation anymore, so that's good. It may be that I just needed to tap off more of the excess on that shade, but like my eyes aren't runny or red or anything, so that's good, but I just wanted to make a note of it. Okay, inner corner, I'm going to use the pressed glitter, and simply because I've had experience using these pressed glitters, I know that I don't need a glitter glue with it, so I am going to avoid using a glitter glue, so there we go. As I have said before, please use your own discretion when it comes to using pressed glitters. There are no claims that say that these are eye safe. I personally have not had any issues with these glitters before, but that's just one person's experience. It is such a pretty pressed glitter though. Like, I can see all of those different colors even this far away from the mirror. That is really pretty. This would be a really pretty glitter all over the lid as well. So there is the eyeshadow, such as it is. I'm gonna do liner and mascara off camera, then we'll come back and assess the final look. Okay, so here is the final look. For my waterline, I used a nude pencil liner from MAC. This is in the shade Risque. And then for my liner, for the black, I used the new Huda Beauty liquid liner called the Life Liner, simply because it's very, very precise. And I wanted to keep that black line as thin as possible, because then I went over it with the white liner from Dior. So this is the Dior Show on Stage liner in white, I guess, 001, it's white, it's the only white one they have. And then for mascara, I'm using this one here from Ilia. This is the Fullest Volumizing Mascara. I disagree with the claim that it's volumizing. I think it definitely separates the lashes and adds length to them, but I don't think that it adds a ton of volume. So jury's still out on this one. I don't dislike it, but it doesn't take the place of my Bite Beauty, except literally it does right now because I still can't find that one. My room has swallowed it. So at any rate, here is the final eye look. I think it came together fairly well. I still can't say that this is my favorite color story, but if we just look at how the powders apply and blend out, I can't complain about it. I really, especially those pastel matte shades, am very impressed by those. Now, like I said, I did have a little bit of irritation blending that satin shadow under my eyes, so I think next time I'll just make sure that I tap off as much excess as possible. Better to build up slowly than to go in with too much and have it irritating the eyes. But it was very short-lived, so it's not a major complaint, just something that I feel I need to make note of. This pressed glitter, I'm not normally like a huge pressed glitter fan, but this one is very, very pretty. All of those multicolored reflex are really showing through, and I think it's gorgeous, and I think it would be beautiful all over the lid or even just patted on top of what's already going on here. But for today, I'm just gonna leave it alone. Less is more for now. So suffice it to say, I don't have any quality complaints. It's just not the color story that I would typically gravitate towards, but I'm glad that we managed to pull something off in the end, and I stepped outside of my comfort zone, and it's always good for us to do that every now and then and just expand our boundaries in that way. So there we have it. I'm going to wrap the video up here. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will see you in my next one. Until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.